Hello to all of our listeners, and welcome back to The Parent Solution, your one-stop shop for all things educational. I'm your host, Kimberly. Today's episode is a follow-up podcast of sorts to my previous podcast that I did a couple weeks ago, and this was 3 holy grail traits for raising entrepreneurial kids. If you want to check that out, make sure to look in the show notes. But for today, I wanted to focus a little bit more on the difference between motivation and discipline and why they're both important to your child's success. First, I think it's important to start by defining these things. So motivation is the ability to provide a motivating force, stimulus, or influence. It often is the drive that follows after some sort of inspiring experience. That exciting stimuli could give your child the initial kick to begin the task ahead of them. And while motivation does produce the why for your child exerting energy into whatever task it is, it's not going to hold them in the long run. To be successful at any work, your child must learn the art of discipline. Now, discipline, in the context of this podcast, is the orderly or prescribed conduct or pattern of behavior. Discipline is also defined as self-control. Having the determination to work daily at a task until completion at a set time and with a deliberate sort of excellence is, I think, an art. And many people in life do not accomplish their dreams simply because they do not have the discipline to do so. So by teaching your child discipline, you're giving them a head start in life because discipline is going to take them from point A to point B. Now, as I mentioned, both of these things are extremely beneficial for a child's development, but I think it's really important to recognize the differences and ensure that your child is learning each skill appropriately. Motivation is a feeling, but discipline is a learned skill. A feeling, whether it's good or it's bad, can come and go, and a learned skill takes time to hone and mature. It takes regular practice, and it requires the process of trial and error. This means a few setbacks or some challenges that perhaps almost make you quit. And then, of course, there's victory when you succeed. So helping your child to become disciplined is going to give them the opportunity to practice self-control and independence. They're going to be the ones in charge of making sure that they get ample sleep the night before a ballet recital. Or they'll have the responsibility, perhaps, of practicing those piano notes before a performance. They're going to learn the importance of opting out of a game with their friends to do research on a science experiment that they then have to present to their class the next day. Discipline is the difference here. This isn't about forcing your child to do things. That's not what I'm encouraging. What I am saying is that you want to encourage them to do things and to be intentional about what they do with a real end goal in mind. Motivation comes in perfectly here. As you observe your child, you can discover what motivates them. Some children are motivated internally, so all they need is an internal sense that what they're doing is good or right, and that's enough for them. Some children require more of an external reward. Once you've discovered what sort of thing motivates your child, you can help them aspire to ideas and to set goals. Here's where discipline comes in. If your child wants to write a story because they were inspired by a book they read, that's great. Now you can help them plan it out. If you are an author or you know an author, you're going to know that every writer faces a period of what's known as writer's block, which is the time when motivation runs out and the story feels stuck or boring. So this is where your child will need you. This is when you remind your child of the plan that they made that says that they would write a paragraph every day between 2 and 3 p.m. Encourage them to brainstorm new ideas and remind them of why they wanted to start this project in the first place. I can guarantee you that when your child completes that book project, they're going to feel more confident in their writing skills than they did before, because now they have an understanding of how having discipline leads to success, and they're going to be thankful that you were there on the journey with them. Not only will discipline help your child push past the challenges that come with tasks, but it does enable them to see how hard work pays off. More than just financially, of course, hard work makes you a capable and a competent human being. Discipline transitions your child from just being one of those talkers who gawk at other people's performances or accomplishments to being one of those doers who don't have time to gawk because they're too busy changing the world. That is all for this week's episode of The Parent Solution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any comments or questions, either about this issue or others that have come up for you, you can always find me on social media. It's Star Students on Facebook and LinkedIn, or starstudents.learning on Instagram. You can also reach out through email, which is all over social media channels. Thank you, as always, so much for listening, and I'll be back next week.